Hello again. Those of you who've seen my more recent posts probably heard my riff on the surprise contender in the animated feature category, The Secret of Kells. I had the opportunity to see that along with one of the other animated features that came out this year, Planet 51. I'll go ahead and talk briefly about Planet 51. It's not an Oscar nominee, so at this point in the season, you could claim this not really that important. But it's a fun movie. It's about on par with Monsters vs. Aliens. And unfortunately, it probably seemed to most of the audiences and critics as too similar. Because movies always travel in pairs for some reason. It's an intriguing concept. A alien crash lands on a planet that seems suspiciously like 1950s United States America. The alien is an American. And it's one of those flip your preconceived notions on their head kind of movies, which is impressive for an animated film aimed at the family, as are some of the jokes. It had some of the better one-liners I've seen all year. Dwayne Johnson plays the American, the astronaut, does a decent job. The real standout of the show is Justin Long, who plays the main, well, he's not an alien, he's a, what do you call him, Planet 51ian? I don't think they really said in the movie what they're supposed to be called. But Long does a very good job. He proves himself a decent voice actor. Jessica Biel and Seann William Scott offer him able support. And as the general who's out to get the alien, Gary Oldman does a good job as the creepy villain. And John Cleese gets a couple great lines and some good screen time as the doctor, professor, or whatever, scientist, mad scientist, you could almost say, who is bent on examining the alien's brain. It was a fun movie. Like I said, not up for really any awards or not many to speak of, but what it did do, that and Kells, brought my total of animated features up to 10 for the year, which is impressive enough by my standards. Can't think of any other year where I've seen 10 animated features, let alone 10 good ones. Even 9 was good. Not great, but good. But that is exactly half of the eligible films that came out this year. Still need to see Astro Boy and a couple of the others, but of the eligible films, I've seen half of them. So, it's pretty good. I kind of know what I'm talking about now. I had some egg on my face claiming I knew what I talked about, and then they went and nominated Kells. But, anyway, Kells was a great movie. Not best animated feature. It's not even in the same ballpark as Up or Fantastic Mr. Fox or Coraline. It's not as good as Princess and the Frog, but it's pretty much in the same ballpark as Ponyo and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And as I said, it is aimed at a slightly younger audience than some of the other nominees. It's basically about a young man named Brendan, young boy, Brendan, who is living in a fortress, I believe in Ireland, makes sense, and his uncle, played by Brendan Gleeson in one of the less impressive vocal performances of the year, although partly he was in character, and it was a character who wasn't that fleshed out of a character, sadly. His uncle is hell-bent on building a wall to keep out the Norsemen, who have been raping and pillaging towns all over the place. And Brendan has more interested in learning and when one of the scholars of his time comes to Kells with their fortress, Brendan spends all his time with the scholar who reminded me visually a lot of Willie Nelson, but sounds very different, obviously. He has a book with him that is still being written, and he trains Brendan against Brendan's uncle's wishes to write the book. He shows him what needs to be done, and Brendan sneaks out for the first time in his life outside the walls of Kells, meets a young sprite, fairy, what have you, by the name of Ashley, who shows him the way, if you will. And this is why I say the movie gets into very environmental themes, although in the end it's more of a standing up for what you believe in kind of movie. In the end, Brendan, I'm not going to tell you the exact ending because you ought to see it for yourself, but with this sort of film you can kind of predict how it goes. Well done film. Animation is much lower level than any of the other nominees. It's got a very flat, I dare say simplistic style, Cartoon Network style basically. My friend I was watching it with compared it to Dora the Explorer kind of stuff. I read reviews who compared it to Kim Possible. Pretty apt descriptions. It will not win any awards for technical brilliance in the animation department, but it is still very pretty animation. At times, very amusing animation. I joked, but I will put this forward. You can consider this a serious suggestion. The cat in Secret of Kells should be nominated for Best Four-Legged Performer. I will give the animators this. The expressions that the cat had were priceless. But at any rate, Kells had, next to Coraline and maybe one other movie, the best score of the year. I reiterate, Bruno Collet, who also wrote the score for Coraline, got absolutely gypped that neither one of these films is up for original score. It is a crime against him and against good music in general. Great music, I should say. So, I highly recommend you see the film. I very highly recommend you get it if you get a chance to listen to the music, that you do so. I highly recommend Plan 51 too. It's not Oscar viewing, but it's worth watching for a lot of fun. And at any rate, gets you up to speed with what I've seen so far. I believe, like I said, my viewing list for the next week, Young Victoria, I will have to knock it out. I'm going to try and see Bright Star, Coco Before Chanel. I also have access to the surprise makeup nominee Il Divo, so try and see that. And I'm going to try and get some of the documentary nominees out of the way, so maybe I might be able to give some actual documentary commentary. One last comment. Since this is a post on animated films anyway, I will admit I didn't call it right. I said I don't know short films, but I said Partly Cloudy was guaranteed. I was wrong. Pixar lost out to Aardman Studios. There is a Wallace and Gromit short up, which I'm going to have to try and see because I like Wallace and Gromit. But anyway, check out Partly Cloudy anyway. It's a lot of fun. And check out these others I've talked about. And really, most of the nominees are worthy except for Transformers. So, happy viewing.